Thanks for the reminder. Sometimes I forget to record until I'm halfway in. Warwick, I think you're on the spot now.
Oh, can't hear you, Warwick.
Hello.
Check the other end of the mic. Is it plugged in?
Is that any better?
Yes, that's better. Mm.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I got a different mic in here and I've got to just crank it. Okay. But good to know. Yeah. Rothko asked about online full time, like real-time music collaboration software. And there are a few systems that I know of, two that I have used. There's one called Jam Kazam. At the start of the year, they went to a paid model where there's a sort of 4 hours a month freebie thing you could use to try, and then you can pay more to get what's going on there.
Warwick, can you spell it out in the chat, and I'll look up the website as you're doing that, and then I'll put a link up here.
So yeah, the first one's Jam Kazam. They're actually based in Austin. To make it really work, so you need a reasonably decent internet connection. Not a ton of internet. Like you don't have to have business class, but you want to have, 5 to 10 megabits upload. And you do need a decent audio interface on your system. So some of the Focusrite, some of the Behringer stuff, you want a decent microphone. And the key thing is you need to have your computer, and it only runs on a computer, not an iPad. You need your computer wired into like running a cable to your router. Because you can't use Wi-Fi because it adds too much what they call latency, and latency is the killer. The difference, so latency, just to set, is how long it takes a sound to get to you, and you have latency all the time, and it's like a foot, 1 millisecond is like 1 foot or something like that. So that we have latency in bandwidth practice. When we're rehearsing at Covenant, Robert's hearing things at the back and from the sides slightly later than when they were made, and that blasts out into the audience. Close proximity, it's okay. But when you're trying to deal with people in different cities on different internet connections, then the lower number is the better number. So every time, all you read about stuff is, yeah, it sounds okay, but everybody's actually talking about trying to get your latency down. So Jam Kazam's one, and it's an interesting thing. They have a website that does full sign up, set up, arranging meetings, or like setting up your practices, rehearsals. You can create a session that you can pick a genre. People sign in. They connect to your session, and you ideally hear everybody talking and playing. And the Jam Kazam has a video option, and I've used it a bit. It works. I've done something where I tried running a sax quartet. I had somebody in Baltimore, me in Austin, somebody in New York City, and somebody in Boston. And we were actually able to kind of slog through nothing too fast. And it's without a drummer, something keeping time, it makes it a little bit harder. The hard part for drummers is they can't basically listen to anybody else. They just keep the beat. Don't listen to what's coming into your earphones, because it throws you off. I mean, Bobby knows that it throws you off even if you're in the same room, but it gets worse.
And so there were others mentioned, but Jam Kazam is the only one that you would, that if you were going to look at something, it would be that would be the one.
So the
Jamulus?
next one I just put the next one I put is one called Jamulus. This one's free. You download it, you run it. There are there are servers set up where people run, and you can hear. You just find this list, this server. Can I share my screen, Michael?
Can't hear you, Mike.
Sorry, I muted there. I'll make you a co-host here. Let me find you on the list. There we go. Okay, so now you should be able to share.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so now I'm sharing screen one. So
Uh,
can you see
well-
this weird looking Jamulus screen?
We don't see it now.
Oh,
You were up before and then it went away. There we go.
There you go.
okay.
Yeah.
So this is the Jamulus interface. And you end up picking, come on, the big list of servers. There we go. So there's this list of servers that are around the world. I mean, literally all around the world. And these top two, my ping time, this comes back to the latency. They're very close, and then it has a. This is all free. This is a couple of guys doing this, and they keep evolving it. But it does the odd weird thing here. But you got servers all over the world. Tells you how many people are on. Interestingly, not many people are on right now on a bunch of these things. And you can find out place in Montreal, Canada. And there's actually one that there's a bounce off of a couple of times out in Southern California. There's Randy's. Nobody's on it, but
I guess everybody's at band rehearsal.
that window pops up. There's another window that has to tell you how what your latency is trying to talk to this server, and ideally my numbers here aren't good now, partly because I'm on Wi-Fi. So normally this is where you'd also have a direct connect to your router off with I've got a 50-foot cable that I drag down the hall as I need to when I set this stuff up. But I'm connected here, and so the signal that I've got going out goes out into across, and anybody else who's here would hear me coming back into their system. And normally when I play with these guys, it's like 100 to 120 milliseconds, and some days are very bad, some days are very good. But this one's free. There's a couple of active groups on Facebook dealing with this, and groups that use it. And one of the things they do every Saturday is a world jam. And you can find recorded sessions on YouTube. And they've done a choir where it was basically 6 different European countries, about 20 people, and they did a choir performance live. Basically, it looks like the performance window looks like this, only they're all singing, and it's amazing. As some of these guys, there's a guy out of Moscow that is amazing, an amazing player. And there's these different people who've sort of shown up out of different places. It's interesting to watch and see what different groups are doing. And then there's the last one there that Robert just popped up. One called Sonobus, and that's sort of the new kid on the block that's getting some legs. And people are liking it because it deals with how it connects between the different spokes on all the different people playing, rather than having things hit a central server and bounce back out to everybody. It's doing basically peer-to-peer connections, which work well for some things and work terribly for others. This whole latency thing, like here in Cedar Park, getting out to the real, the big backbones. My system from my house takes a couple of hops that show that it's slower than other people have. So there are times where you can be playing with somebody in the same city, but they're on a different internet provider, and playing with somebody 500 miles away. And because they're on, we're both on Spectrum, the guy 500 miles away and I can have good low latency, but the guy that's on AT&T, even though he's got AT&T fiber, just the way things hook together, is having a terrible time trying to play, because there's these things completely out of your control that screw things up.
Yeah. So I put, just for those of you guys that don't know, latency has to do with how many servers your internet provider is using. The more the servers, the more the latency. So if they're using a lot. So if the signal is actually having to be divided or shared by a lot of people, then for you that's going to mean that the system is going to drag and a lot of times skip. And because of that, then you want that number as low as possible. So if you want to check how your computer is doing, I put in there that speedtest.net. That's the one that I just used. There are many that will test your speed. And what you want to look at is you want to look at what it says ping. Where it says ping, you want that number to be as low as possible.
Yep.
Like if it's pinging at 1 or 2, that's really, really good. If it pings any more than 20, you got some problems, and it's going to be really, it's going to slow down. And I've seen pinging, much, much higher than that. The good thing though, is that it will tell you, these speed tests will tell you where, which access point you're using the most, and you can change that with your internet provider. So if you're at a point where it makes it ping too high, then you might change to a different server and see if that pings a little bit lower. For those computer guys that are out there, how am I doing? Did I explain that well?
Yeah, and unfortunately for a lot of this stuff, to have a good musical online collaboration, you have to become a bit of a network tech. It's because you're messing with stuff starting at your computer. So like shutting down things running in the background like Dropbox, Box, OneDrive, antivirus, anything that starts messing with trying to pull away resources on your computer, hardwire into your router, try and tell everybody not to play games, stream Netflix, try and upload some new podcast to their server while you're trying to do online music because you're competing for that resource. And then, like Robert said, once you get out of your house, now you're at the mercy of whoever you're paying for your internet. And if you have a look at what you're paying for and what the service agreement is, I think I'm supposed to get up to 200 megabits a second, but it's if 60 to 200 megabits a second is the acceptable limit. And so it's like that's kind of a pretty wide range, you know, like if I'm paying $200 a month, if I paid 60 to $200 a month, how you guys with that? And it doesn't work that well with the providers. So I don't advise trying that one. But there is lots of help for all of these things on Facebook. You can find stuff for some of it on like things like Stack Overflow and you know, Google. But there's a ton of people out willing, you know, to help you set things up. The Jamulus thing is interesting because you can set up your own private server. So I actually have one set up on a spare computer just to try it out. And essentially you set up the thing, it runs on your, you know, it's running on your local network at home. You tell people what the IP address is for it, and they can connect to it, and you can try, you know, like you're not in that great big list that I showed. It's just a private thing, you know. So if, you know, Bubba Coltrane wanted to have a online rehearsal, somebody sets up a server and you run that. A lot of the servers that you saw on that list are actually running on things like the Amazon and Microsoft and Google cloud servers. And so people pay a few bucks a month to run it. They don't take a ton of resources, which is pretty cool. But and those resources there are actually, you know, better in terms of they're on the backbone usually. So the last little bit of traffic to get to them, it's, you know, like if you live right off the highway, once you get on the highway, boom, you're home. You know, it's quick when you get off there. So
could you see ACWE setting up their own little server?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be one where it'd be worth, you know, finding somebody like Amazon that's got a cloud service close to in Austin and run it in the cloud there, because it would just, it's more resources. You know, you can essentially buy your way monthly into doing that. The trickier bit would be the server's not the thing. It's getting, you know, 60 to 80 people set up to have this, you know, because you need a microphone or something to get your signal into your system. You really do need a decent interface. You got to tweak it to get it all set up, and then for this, you then all have to get together at the same time to play, like any, you know, like a regular rehearsal, as opposed to saying, hey, here's your part, here's a click track, here's a MP3 with the click track and some instructions, play your part along with it. When you're done, by the end of the week, upload it and we'll mix it all together and do an online collaboration. You know, that's a non,
well, that's precisely what I'm trying to avoid. You know,
but yeah, but it's a whole, you know, there are some people doing Jamulus stuff where they're buying little Raspberry Pi devices and putting that in. A lot of cases, if you're doing a choir, there's been a bunch of discussions where people are doing choirs with, you know, just a standard, like a gaming headset with the little microphone hanging off and USB plugging in. For that, a lot of times you can do vocals through that, okay, for what you're doing there. But there's still, you still have all the other parts of, okay, now that I've got it running and I'm out, then, you know, how do I get my latency low, and how do you talk certain people through how to set up their system? And then you get the people who don't have a computer, they have an iPad, which is a type of computer, but not great for that kind of for these online things. Mostly want to have a Mac or a Windows box.
So then what we need to do is do a fundraiser and set up everybody up with their own rig then, huh?
Ideally, and I mean the interesting thing about that, Robert, is that it's not that far fetched, because if you could get one of those Raspberry Pi things where you could actually conceivably bulk buy 100 of them and get 100 cases, and a lot of these, the image that goes on, you just download it, put it on a USB drive, power the thing up, and you're now running a Jamulus box ready to go, and plug your microphone in and off you go. You almost, with a bit of, you could commoditize it to an extent, and then that would make it a whole lot easier if it was, hey, just, then it's like, okay, now you got to plug a network cable into, and that becomes a whole other thing about trying to explain where you plug the network cable in.
Well, that's fairly easy. That it only goes in one way. It's a LAN cable, and most people's computer come with one anyway. They just kind of scratch their heads about where does it go, But that's that part of it is not that difficult, I don't think.
For those Mac users, my roommate got me this thing, and so my brand new Mac Pro doesn't have an Ethernet connection, but this plugs into the side of it, and there is an Ethernet connection there. So there are options if you've got a newer machine without the Ethernet.
Yeah, I have a single for my old work Windows laptop didn't have an actual RJ45 jack. I had to have a USB to Ethernet dongle that I would plug in, and to have a network cable. And so, yeah, I mean, it's all doable, but if you said try to get 80 people to do it in a week, nobody's managed to do that. Anybody that I've been reading, it's, like they've been, the guy who tried to get 20 people, and some of them were like, some schools have tried it, some churches have tried it, and you see stories, and people get smarter about it, and they try and bring people on. They brought the sopranos on, and then they brought the altos in, and brought a few people at a time, and they learned as they banged their heads against, the first group, they learned how to make things better the second time, plus those people could help. And it's a
learning curve. Sounds
yeah, and people, and people don't don't always want to go out to visit somebody in the age of COVID. So, having I'll just go out and help doesn't always work. So, trying to do things remotely is becoming people are getting real good at that, which is good and bad that you have to, but it helps that you can start to explain things to people remotely.
Or it sounds like the best thing that you could do for the group is first just make a recommendation on which one of those that would work best, even if there is a monthly fee or something involved with it. Just say this is the best one, and then give a list of materials that people would need to buy to make it work, and then finally a very very concise list of instructions on physical setup and then software setup, so people can kind of just follow a checklist to get it going. I followed most of that, but I wouldn't know exactly what to buy, and maybe since we're talking mostly with instrumentalists, maybe just the best recommendation for a cheap but functional and decent microphone that people can plug in, how that would attach, like I said, the hardware side of it, and that way we could actually make this something possible and functional.
The other thing is that these things don't do video. So So you have to be listening. You know, in that case, you can't watch Robert.
Oh, so there's some pros.
What's the difference?
Oh, yeah, it's just like rehearsal.
It's it is a little bit. So if you do go and look up this World Jam stuff, they actually have everybody shows up. They're on video. I mean, literally, you see people playing their instruments, and to do that, they run the Jamulus software. They also run Zoom to get the video. And then I don't know if you've ever seen any of these things like Twitch or whatever, where people are streaming from their systems onto. So to do this World Jam, people are using Jamulus. They're using Zoom. It's all feeding into one computer into OBS Studio, which is another free thing that's pretty amazing. And they're taking that output. It's syncing the video and the audio because they're actually coming in out of sync. So I think they slow down the audio to match with the video as they're putting together the 6 or 8 frames of video, and then try and sync that up so the band's not done before either the sound finishes or the video stops or whatever. And they stream that out to YouTube or Facebook Live so that's what you end up watching. That's not what you use for rehearsals. You just look at that screen with the bouncing, a list of everybody's names and a slider for volume, and you mess around with that and listen. And if it's not working, suddenly the drummer starts banging on his cymbal or something to try and get everybody's attention. So it gets a little weird, but it's interesting. I find it interesting just from an academic thing that it's even close enough to possible to try doing that, to play with people, several hundred miles away. And so it's just kind of cool.
So the Symphony of 1,000, the Symphony of 1,000 is out of the question. No Mahler for us. You've been bad.
Yeah. That would be ambitious.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it sounds like we do have a ways to go. It may have potential. Like, one of the things that I kind of thought about when you were saying that is that that you could piece it into small groups. Like you can have the clarinet section and the trumpet section and the percussion and that kind of stuff. It still makes things for us. It makes things really, really complicated because then you're having to deal with post-production, which is it's just a nightmare, and that's for me, one of the things that I like about rehearsals, and of course it's the human interaction with everybody, and that's that, when you're doing things like that, then you kind of miss it. So, oh well, I mean, it's still, there's nothing like human ingenuity, that we're a lot, just in 1 year. Imagine everything that's changed in just this 1 year, and how fast a bunch of this stuff is changing, so it's kind of cool.
For the better.
Yeah, some of it better. Yeah.
What I like about this idea is a little bit on a tangent from what I think the intent is, but I think it'd be interesting to also broadcast our rehearsals. Maybe
on
not
YouTube, on YouTube or something? Or
yeah, well, everywhere, anywhere.
You mean I have to watch my mouth now?
No, because if you do, I do, and it's not gonna happen. I just, beg for forgiveness later.
Yeah, like get us kicked out of St. Louis. Thank you.
Where's my scratch pad? It's starting to look like a prison wall.
Hey, Kat, by the way, last time I mentioned that was like last weekend, and he blamed you for it. So I just thought that, we may just kind of clear things up here.
That-
He
that-
says
I
it-
thought that we had agreed that we were going to blame whoever broke the organ, and it had nothing to do with spankings in a Catholic church. And that's where we're going to leave it. It was the organ.
I am going to leave that right there.
You would think a spanking of a handsome young man like myself would be welcome in a Catholic
Oh,
church.
see, you have to do it. Leave it. Stop. This is being recorded, by the way. So just
Can't get away from their quarters.
well, it's a problem.
I can edit.
Warwick, I kind of interrupted. Are you pretty much? Is that? Do you have other stuff that you want to?
Those
wanna
right
bring
now are the big three that I know of. There are some other things that are somewhat experimental. That I think some work better for Macs than they do for Windows boxes. But I posted a link to into the chat. That's from earlier this year. It's a concert that a big band from Santa Barbara City College did, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, it's it's Armadillo Swing Band basically, where everybody's playing it. But they're doing this to do the stream. Everybody's playing with Jamulus plus Zoom, and it's going to be to another place that's actually stitching things together to put the actual stream out onto.
Mike, if you let me share screen, I'll put that up.
Hold on.
And earlier this year, I don't think it's this one, but there were two big bands. They sort of became aware of each other at this World Jam thing on the weekends, and so there was the band in Sweden and this Santa Barbara band, and they took turns as groups, each playing a tune, and they did, I think, 3 tunes each over a lunchtime, and it was, it was cool.
Can everybody see this?
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna erase. Let me. Wow, that delay. See how they started it. Hang on, let me see how they started it off. Oh, look, Tyler. That's actually, I mean, that's not bad. I mean, that you could tell that there are some time fluctuations. Somebody obviously did some post production, right? I mean,
Nope. No.
Really, that was it?
That is recorded live. That's that. Everybody's sending the signal to one place that actually just stitches the Zoom videos, and the audio so that the music matches what the guys are doing, and then stream to YouTube.
Wow.
So that's
Actually
really
pretty
the
good.
cool part. Yeah. And,
Yeah,
you know,
to actually swing. I mean, it's off, but it's like any
it's
rehearsal would be,
it's harder to do faster tunes because you have less time to react. So a lot of times you'll hear people doing, unless they all are very close together and have really decent latency numbers,
Yeah.
and I mean we have, like I said, we have latency in our practice hall,
Yeah, we just call it
so
phasing. Yeah.
yeah, latency's not something that you're going to get rid of. It's a matter of physics, but trying to run stuff, the really cool part is that electricity travels a whole lot faster than sound, right? So it once you've converted down to a signal that's in your computer and then gets shot through the wires, the trip through the wires is relatively quick depending on how many bounces you have to make. Like Robert was saying, how many times do you bounce off stuff to get to where you're supposed to get that final signal? You keep that. So if everybody's low, you can do faster things. But if you've got higher stuff, 140 beats, 160 beats is about it. And a lot of the times the drummer does not listen to the band. The drummer counts it in, and he plays his part. There's not a whole lot of room for ad-libbing or doing things extemporaneously. You all got to be on the same page for that.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how tempo changes and accelerandos and retardandos and things like that work. And also, I mean, the other thing that I could see with them would be problematic would be like balance and dynamic range, but because everybody would be, I mean, that's something that happens in person also, but it's something that you can physically control at the moment, but you lose that when you allow the computer to control that for you. So that's I don't know. Maybe this whole thing will force musicians to rehearse and play differently. Electronically anyway. So, okay. Well, thanks, Warwick.
I just dropped another link. This is like a 50-second from one of the choirs that did something in May, and there's like 13 people.
You want to look at it?
Yeah, let's look at it.
Hang on a second. Let me just up here. Yeah, well, that reverb drives me nuts. But I mean, other than the added effect, no, that was actually pretty tight. That was good. I guess you don't have to add effects, do you?
I don't know what they did, if they did something on that or not.
That was a lot of reverb on that.
They could add that as it hits OBS. They could put stuff on it as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, or whatever sound. Remember sound cards. So whatever sound card it is that they were using would have put like a hall effect on it or something like that. But there was an effect.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they're just poor taste.
Right. A little gaudy there, but that's all right.
But hey, if you paid for the reverb, you should use all of it.
Every time. time.
No, the reverb covers up how off they are because of the latency.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. No, it's not reverb, it's latency.
No, it just man, it smooths everything all together. So,
Yeah.
Okay, well, who else wants to? What I have for the group is not really rehearsal software. It's just the stuff that I use, like Band in a Box and that kind of stuff. That we just some of you guys know how to use and some of you guys don't. Do you want to go into that, or does anybody have any other rehearsal software that or things that could be used as rehearsing? Yeah, I love Band in a Box. So let me show you that. Let's just kind of go into that. And different people will use it different ways. The cool thing about Band in a Box is that it's cheap as far as software goes. Let me show you what it looks like. So, huh?
Are you pirating it? It's not that cheap.
Oh, well, it's not that expensive. Look, when you compare it to other software, all right, so let me put it this way.
Yeah, I get it. It depends on, I mean, you can spend a ton.
Yeah, it's not a $1.99 app.
it's cheaper than Pro Tools or Finale.
Exactly. Pro Tools, my goodness. All right, so those are, for those of you guys that don't, Pro Tools is I guess it's still the industry standard when it comes to recording, splicing, and mixing, and all of that kind of stuff. It's a really, really powerful tool, and it takes a really long time to use. It's not user friendly, and it requires a lot of money up front and a lot of money in upkeep.
You've sold me.
Huh?
You've sold me.
But it is kind of and Michael, you might know this better than me, but is it still the industry standard?
Sort of like in that Microsoft Word is, because it's just been around for so long and people keep using it, but people are definitely shifting over to other things now.
Yeah. And I would have thought that, as expensive and cumbersome as it is, that it would have seen its demise a long time ago, but it is powerful. It's really powerful. And
yeah, Work's got the list there. Reaper's a popular one because it's really inexpensive. What was the Apple one? I forget the one that Apple puts out.
GarageBand?
No, there's a professional thing for Apple. I keep forgetting what it's called. I'm not even sure if it's available anymore since Apple seems determined to kill all their professional products. But there's
some of these. I guess if we just kind of go down that list a little bit. I'm not familiar with Reaper, but Audacity, Cakewalk, and Cubase have been around for a long, long time. Cakewalk is one of the oldest, I think.
Yeah, that was around when I was in grad school.
Yeah,
I ran it on my MPU 401.
I mean, I would say early 90s or even late 80s, maybe?
Late 80s, probably.
80 by 25, I think. It was like a DOS interface. Like, it was like a character-based interface almost. It was very weird.
And back then it was super cheesy, and it was only, back then your sound card might have had 16 sounds or something like that.
I think it was just MIDI back then.
That's right. It was only MIDI.
Yeah, and MIDI.
Not very good.
Yeah, MIDI will run on real low-end computers because it's just sending, note on, note off, and a little bit of other information. It's, by today's standards, it's tiny amounts of data.
So I'll show you Audacity because I have it kicked in, but I also have Cakewalk, and these are, compared to Band in a Box, they're much cheaper, like a lot cheaper.
Like what would be the final price?
Probably, I would guess that probably you could probably get Cakewalk like from Steam for like $35 or something.
I actually think it's free now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Audacity's free.
You can get free versions of Traction.
But Audacity is just an audio recorder. It's kind of in a different league than the other stuff.
It can do some stuff.
A little bit of MIDI, but it's
if you're gonna push Audacity, move to Reaper.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. And then Reaper's it's not very expensive at all, is it?
$60.
Yeah, I mean, considering what it does, that's dirt cheap.
That's good, and that's good for two major release cycles. So I bought it a little. And you can trial it for as long as you want. Like Reaper's Reaper, there's no pro version or anything, so you can get it. You can run it. It gives you a 5-second countdown if you're out of the 14-day trial period or whatever, and then you get the full product. You just have to wait 5 seconds when you start it up if you don't want to pay the $60 to get rid of the nag screen.
So the one that I posted was actually Ardor, and I started off using Audacity, and it was not intuitive at all. So Ardor is more in league with like Cubase. It's also free. The problem with Reaper is that I think, didn't they just release their beta for people who run Linux, the open source things? Like, I know that I wasn't able to use Reaper for a long time. So if you're not using iOS, or if you're not using Microsoft products, you're going to have to keep that in mind when you're choosing your software.
So let's, if you don't mind, we should probably run through some of these and show people what it is that they do, because some of them, like Band in the Box, is in a different category, or at least I would think, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe I'll show Band in the Box for a little bit and show you how it is that I've used it for practice and that kind of stuff, and maybe some of you guys can kick in Audacity and Cakewalk and Cat. I don't know if you have yours up, Ardor. I've never even heard of that, but those are going to be more like recording and production type of things, which are really cool, right? I mean, if you know. So let me just show you if I can Band in the Box first. And so this one, it used to be a really cheesy program, and it still remains some cheese because of some of the songs that you can get, or how it is that it actually creates a little combo for you. Sometimes it sounds kind of cheesy. They've gotten much better over the years, like a lot better. But if you're creating, let's say that you're coming up with a song and that you just kind of hammer out your song, and you kind of want to see what it would look like, or what it would sound like, you know, I'll just take some just basic blues. Let's say that you're doing some blues, and let's say that you're just doing blues in C just to keep it even. Then you just type F. What I just did was that I'm just following my arrow keys. And in the 5th measure, I just put an F, and in the 6th one, I just type the actual letter F. And then in the next one, I type C, and then I let that go for 2 measures. And then I put G for 1 measure, F for another measure, and C. And so if I want to see what that sounds like, if I don't know what that sounds like, I'll go back to it. And just kind of let it play, and so it'll click, give me a little click track, and then it'll go. Change. Here's a turnaround. Okay, so that's basically it. I mean, it's kind of cheesy like this, but why am I yelling? I don't know. Let me just I'll just show you kind of one of their little
Excitement
demos there. Let's do a bossa just for the hell of it.
Does Band in the Box come with built-in charts?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the original version did, and I had that, and then there was like some kind of lawsuit, and they had to take most or all of them out, and then I didn't know if they'd come back over the years.
You can buy add-ins, and I think that's where they would be. I know that I at some point I had a bunch of them.
Yeah. In the first version, it came with, I don't know,
yeah, actual standards,
few hundred charts of standards, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember that. That was pretty cool.
But it was MIDI though, so it didn't make sound. It basically sent out a MIDI signal, and you had to have a synthesizer or a sampler or something to make the actual sounds.
Right.
Now,
So this is what their little sample would sound like. This is just funk with horns. So to actually, let me see. Let me just kind of clear all of this. To then to actually just give you an example of how it is that you can use it. You just kind of clear all of that. Let's say that you're bored stiff at home because you don't have band, and you're and you are really trying to improve your playing. So you're going to say, okay, all right, I haven't practiced scales in a long time, so let me go around the circle of fifths, but let me make it a little bit more fun. So you kind of say, all right, we'll start in C because everybody starts in C, then to F, then to B flat. Whoops, not B flat. You could if you wanted to. Then what, E flat, then A flat. You get my meaning, right? Then what, D flat, then G flat, and then depending on where you want to go, let's go C flat here, but you could of course go B, and then E. I'm sorry. Yeah, where I go, I'm going around. B, G flat, F sharp, right?
No, E, A,
B, E, A, D, and then we're back to G, and then we're back to C, right? Did I get that? How am I doing?
Something's wrong between 8 and 10.
you got an extra G flat and B in there.
Oh yeah. Never mind. So this is that.
Yeah, the B went up by a fifth instead of a fourth.
Oh, so this should be. What did I say B? Did I put two B's? I did put two B's. All right. So that was. Let me take that out. G flat is the same thing as F sharp anyway. So it's here, right?
Be C sharp, right?
Yeah.
10 would be C sharp.
Well, so that would be, what did I say? C sharp here? Yes. Which is the same thing as
I already had a D flat.
D flat.
D flat. Right. That's what I did. No, there's the D flat. I'm not looking at the circle. Geez. Okay. Oh, I just put in too many. That's all. So it should be B here. B. Let's see if that comes out. E. A. Whoop. You can also do diminished. A, D, G, and then takes me back to C. There it is. There it is. All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Where's C sharp?
Yeah. Oh, come on. No. Stop. All right, well, let me just, after you get all of that, that's not the point. But the point is that you can start it here, and you can start it whatever style it is that you want. You can load a different style the style picker, and there's a bunch of styles here. So let's see. There's no. I don't see a. Let's see. We'll do a. I wonder if there is a ukulele style here for our ukulele person. Is there a Hawaiian?
Either old time or Hawaiian. You got old time folk with fiddle solo.
Mandolin.
Well, let's try that one. All right. Woohoo! All right, so that's the. So if that is our style. Where is my. Oh, you guys are in my way.
Sorry, Robert.
No, I said all of your faces where my controls are.
Uh-huh.
So if I'm sitting here and I go, okay, I got to practice my scales, and I go. So if I just kind of want to play it straight, at least I'm not sitting there with a stupid metronome going da 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 da. You understand? So I can put whatever style I can change it. I can make it 2 measures if I want to. If I want to go twice through the scale, or I can change the tempo marking here. So instead of, let's say that's way too slow for me, then I can just kind of change it really, really quick. I can do that with my voice better than I can with my horn. So the thing is that it kind of, you can use this stuff to kind of spice up stuff that would be really, really boring, kind of like for a trumpet player. The Clark technical studies are really, really boring, but they're really, really good. So if you just kind of say, okay, well, you just follow the key signature from one to another, how many measures? 4 measures, and then you just do it like this, and you can play whatever style it is that you want, from swing, bossa, whatever it is, it just kind of changes things, and it makes it not boring. Let's see what other way. Sometimes I've done this, not so much for concert band, but if like if you're in a jazz band and you want to plug in the chord changes for a solo that you have, then this is fantastic, because you can just kind of pick whatever style it is that song has, plug in your chord changes, and slow it down if it's too fast, or speed it up if it's too slow, or something like that, and practice it at different tempos and different styles. So that's another way to do that. So I really do like, I think for most musicians, it would be worth it to actually spend a little bit of money. I can't remember how much it is that I paid for this. It was probably around $100.
That's not
because I don't see myself spending with Finale. The last time I bought it, I did spend a lot, but I use Finale for a different thing. I use it for, for different kinds of work and arranging. So
bring a new version out every year of this. They just released the 2021 version, and so there's usually some nominal upgrade fee as well.
Right. So, and that brings me to a different point, in that once if you buy a piece of software like this, that's a chunk of change. I mean, $100 is nothing to sneeze at. It's not what I would consider super expensive, but it's money. And so if you spend this much money, don't let it get away from you. Don't go 2 or 3 years without upgrading it, because then you'll have to pay the full price again.
Something else with that, Robert, the end of the box, it's interesting, because I bought it last year. I upgraded to the 2020 version. It's a middle of the road pack of it. And one thing I hadn't realized they have, but there's a VST version that they have.
Yeah.
So So VST is this magic word that lets you bring stuff from one place into something like a Reaper or Audacity or some other kind of digital audio workstation. So everything Robert just showed you in that standalone software could be a track in your recording software. And then while you play that, you're recording alongside it as you know, sing or play something over top. And that just kind of blew my mind when I saw the demos of that.
Wow, that's something I haven't tried that, but yeah, enough. God, Lee, I've had that software forever.
It's really cool when you add yourself as a track in Reaper and add Ben in a box, and now you can even do it as separate tracks. So you can do mixing down of the drums and bass and guitar players as part of the project in Reaper. So there's pretty good integration now. And then add yourself as a soloist on top. And I often work on many different parts. So I'll take out the band in a box piano and play the piano part of my own. And then, you know, get the trombone out and play another part on top of, you know, that. So
yeah, because I didn't show you that feature, but as you're playing, you can mute or solo different instruments that are accompanying you. So if let's say that for some reason you're practicing on whatever, and you just kind of want to cut out the bass to see if you can actually imagine the bass line or something like that, then you can just kind of mute the bass, and it'll only mute that one part, but everybody else will play. It's really cool. I mean, some of these things are really, really cool, and they reinforce, you know, all the things that you've learned about music, and they make you kind of spark your curiosity, so you kind of learn more, you know, each time. So that's a really cool one there. The thing that I told you about keeping your software upgraded, for me, it was Finale. I've had Finale. Finale is a music engraving software. This is not for everybody. If you don't arrange music, or if you don't want to publish written music, then this is not for you. It's not a good tool for seeing what your song sounds like. You know, it's really not good for that. There are better, you know, that tool, Finale, and some of MuseScore, I think, is another one. Sibelius is another one. All of those are for publishing music. And so if you're not interested in that, if you're not interested in arranging and having, you know, upgrading, you know, arrangements that you've had or things like that, then that's really not for you. But the Finale is actually quite expensive. Sibelius is much cheaper and easier to use, and much more intuitive. I've had Finale since it first came out in the mid-90s, and my experience with it was, since I invested a lot of time in learning how to use it from the beginning, now I'm really, really vested in it, because Finale takes a long time to learn. And now that I know how to use it, I don't want to move to a different piece of software. But my negative experience with it was, and I've done this a couple of times, is that I've let kind of the upgrade lapse, because they're expensive upgrades. And if you do that, then there will come a time where you will need the like, if 2 or 3 years without an upgrade have come around, and they move to a different not a different platform, but a significant upgrade, and for some reason you want that because your computer doesn't really like the other one or something like that, then you're going to pay premium price for it, and that is a big chunk of change. $600-700 is usually where it's around. Pro Tools is more expensive than that, because then you need the little dongle, and you need hardware also with it.
I just looked up Finale, and $600 is the price, but I remember 10-15 years ago it was about $1,000 for the full right software.
Yeah, it kind of goes up and down, and if you're a student, they have a student price for it and stuff like that, and that's really the way to go. A student price is the way to go with things like that. But it's pretty expensive. I mean, I can show you what it looks like. Let me see. I have it up here. There it is. So those of you guys that were here when I was playing, when we played Kijé, I'll show you what that actually looks like. So this is the software. This is what it kind of looks like. This is, let me go back to the beginning. This is the actual score. And that's about as small as I can make it. Let me give you the page view here. So you can't even see it. Let me just kind of look at it a little bit more. So this is kind of like what it looks like, the page view. I usually have it on scroll view because that's more convenient for me. But you can see how clean this is. You know, so as far as music engraving and the things that you can actually do with it are super, super clean. And if you just kind of hit play, then it kind of tells you, well, pretty much it plays what you wrote. And it has percussion parts, and it has, you know, a way for you to write in cadenzas and crescendos and all of that kind of stuff, which you wouldn't do, you know, in some of the other software. But this is really overkill for most band people. And if you don't know Kijé, you need to go listen to it. But I want to revive it. I want to play it again. But anyway, so I wanted to say it again.
Show us, go into part view and show us a part. Clarinet part or something.
So, yeah, let's see. Hang on, let me stop it. So the thing with this is that you can also, let's see if I can just kind of
document view part. Document edit part.
I'll just show you a part. Well, yeah, it may not be. Let's see. Do I have my parts here? Master. Strike. I may not have the individual parts, so I can show you. That's all right. I'll show you parts in something else that I might have done.
Well, hang on, Robert.
Yes.
Go to document, edit part, and show us one.
Yeah. I was just thinking because it'll take it a little bit. That song is so long it'll take just a little bit to process it. But let me see. Let me just show you a part. Like I said, damn it. In trying to save time, of course, I'm wasting time.
That one should generate parts pretty quick.
Yeah, that one's a short one. Let's see. All right, what is this? Dang. I'll just go ahead and just do it the way that you said for the sake of argument. Where's my extract parts?
You don't have to anymore. Just go to document at the top.
I can't remember. It's been a while, so hang on. There you go. Yeah.
Edit part.
Where am I going?
So this is the best part because when I was handwriting music, I always transpose the horns upside down. You're supposed to be a fourth instead of a fifth, and
oh yeah, yeah. And there's you know what Warren just said in here too. There's with Finale, there's usually a number of ways that you can do the same thing, and it really depends on what you know. Because like what I did was the old way. You used to have to extract parts before you could do that, and now it doesn't do that. So, you know, you can just look at it one part at a time, or you can and you can edit parts. So the cool thing about this too is like if you have to edit a part and you kind of say, well, that's not an A there, that should be a C. You can just kind of click and drag it and put it there, and you can check your word, and see how it works. So, and you can do one of the things that I really like about this one, as far as notation, is that if you have a MIDI keyboard on, and you can operate it with your left hand, your regular PC keyboard, your number pad will give it the rhythms, and your music keyboard will give it the pitch, so you can input music really quickly in here. So just one keyboard is the pitch and the other one is the rhythm, and you can just kind of sit there and just write out parts really quick. And the good thing is that if your music manuscript is not all that good, this generates really clean, very clean and easy to read parts. And you can do all kinds of stuff with publishing. You can reduce the size, you can do all kinds of stuff. So it's actually pretty cool, but it's pretty damned expensive. So if you're not going to be arranging or composing, for people who know how to read music, then it's probably not a great thing, but good to mess around with too. So if you can, I'm not going to say pirate it because this is being recorded, but if you can work off of somebody else's,
Finale is actually really hard to pirate.
Yeah.
Because I think it's got one of those phone home.
So you've been told.
so I've been told, yes.
Have to add that. It's being recorded.
All right, mateys.
Well, I'm discouraging people from pirating.
All right, I think, let me see. Oh, I have Audacity, but I'd rather let some of the other guys kind of show you how to use it, because I haven't used Audacity for years. So if some of you guys have it up and you want to talk about it, I will open the floor to everybody else.
I use Audacity when I'm trying to transcribe a solo or something like that. So you can import a MP3 into Audacity and then take a A B section, like a 3-minute solo in the middle, and slow that part down without changing the pitch. So you can say, I want to hear, what was he playing there? I'm trying to figure out what he was playing. Take that, you just swipe over that little section and then play it at half speed, and then you can figure out what notes they're playing.
Yeah, it used to be in my day when I used to go to school. Yeah, it used to be that we had to do this with reel-to-reels, and you had to slow them down so that you would do that in an octave, so that you wouldn't lose the tonality of it. Because if you slowed it down in anything other, it would mess with the pitch. Have you guys discovered the YouTube speeds things? Because you can do this with YouTube videos also. And that way, if somebody's playing a solo, if you're trying to transcribe somebody's solo, you can play it at whatever speed and it will not change the pitch. That's another way to do it too. But Audacity is a little bit better. You can actually manipulate the song and go to that precise bar and play that one thing over and over again without having to mess with that little counter on the video.
One of the things I like about it, I don't use Audacity much, but when we'd be doing a sax quartet rehearsal, I'd just turn on a little handheld recorder and record an MP3 file, but it's like 2 hours long, and there's talking and discussion of how something should be done, and then there's actual playing. And there is a filter that's built in, like Warren was saying about speed up, slow down type things. There's one that's called a silence finder, and it will basically take your 2-hour MP3 and split it at points where suddenly there's a big volume change, and then you can extract those separate pieces to each song that we played. It's a little bit odd if you play something where there's you play and then you stop for like 3 beats and then start again, then it thinks that's actually 2 different songs. So but it's really handy in terms of being able to say, okay, I want to break you know, we played 20 tunes, I want to break them out into individual MP3 files to send out to people. So it's kind of a little Swiss Army knife kind of thing for messing with audio files.
That speed variation on YouTube is usually how I work out songs on bass if I don't have the actual music to. I can just hear the part, do it over and over and over, plus the commercials. Those are awesome.
There was also a soft piece of software. I wonder if it's even made anymore. It was called Slow Gold that used to do that. I'll put the name in here, but it was just it used to be back when people played CDs. It would take any CD and have this Slow Gold. This one it was. Oh, but nobody plays CDs anymore. So, but if you still have a bunch of those, then it might work for you. You might even get it for free. If you never actually done what Warren said, it's actually a really, really good exercise to pull down a song by ear, just with your horn, and listen to a song and actually just kind of write it down. Most of us would start with the bass, you know, or the actual schematic of the thing, you know, 8 measures and then 8 measures and then 8 measures or something like that, and then write down the bass line, and then everything else you kind of build up, you know, on top of that. That's a really, really good ear training tool to do. It also helps with tuning and all of that, and theory.
Does anybody use any phone apps for any of, I mean, similar stuff on phones rather than computer software?
Real Pro is kind of like Band in a Box.
Say that again, Warwick. I missed it.
It's iReal Pro.
iReal.
I've got that, but I don't use the playback. I just use it as a fake book. So.
Yeah, but it'll do like piano, bass, drums playback, and I've used that as an input into some online sessions where, you know, horns jammed against it.
What's nice about it is it comes preloaded with a gazillion standards.
Yeah, and it's like $13 or something. But it doesn't run on Windows. Like, it doesn't run on your laptop. It wants to run on an iPad or Android phone.
Yeah, I've got it on an Android tablet.
Caroline, the ones that I use for on my phone, there are 2 things that I use on my phone that I found were really, really handy. One of them is a strobe tuner.
What I didn't hear.
It's a strobe tuner. It's called, I'll put the name of it here. Do you have an iPhone?
No, I have an Android.
They might actually have this on Android, but they have all kinds of tuners. The thing with these is that some of them are they kind of cut in and out. This one I like because it doesn't seem to have that problem. So I'll put its name up there. It's called iStrobosoft. But if you can get a strobe tuner, mine is for an iPhone, and then the other one that I have is for the metronome, and it's the same thing with metronomes. Is that you, for phones? What I've seen is that a lot of these apps will just kind of they were and then they're going kind of smooth, and then they kind of freeze for a little bit, and that, if you're using that as a metronome, that's just not going to work. You know, you need something that no matter what's happening with your phone, that it's nice and steady. So just kind of, you know, the good thing about it is that many of them are free, like that metronome one that I use is free. you know, it has you can upgrade it, but for all I use it is I use the free side of it. Does anybody else have like Android type of phone stuff that you use?
I got a tuner, but I don't even remember what it's called.
I had a tuner and metronome combo, but I must have deleted it because I don't see it on my phone currently. What I noticed about the tuner was it was close but no cigar, especially if it was sitting on a metal stand. The pitch just wouldn't be accurate enough. The metronome seemed to work good enough. It seemed steady, but I don't remember what the name of it was. I was looking at, I must have just trashed it or it disappeared in an upgrade of a phone.
So that's Thomas. That's exactly the reason why I prefer the strobe tuners, because you can kind of see the oscilloscope. You can kind of see the low frequencies and the higher frequencies better. When you have just one of the ones that people use for like guitars and stuff like that, it just kind of picks the mids and the highs really well, and it kind of loses it on the low side. But you know, you don't know. I like the strobe ones better because of that. They seem to be a little bit more accurate.
Yeah, I just downloaded one so I wouldn't have to carry my actual tuner metronome. And then after using it for a while, I just put my metronome in my case. It's not that much bigger than my phone. I have no idea what it was called though.
The app I use is called Pitch Lab Pro, and it's one app that has a strobe tuner, a pitch pipe, so you play the note and so you can hear it, which is handy for play me a B flat kind of thing. It also detects multiple notes at a time, so I always take it to hear other bands play and figure out what key they're playing in just by watching what notes are coming off the bass. You know, if you got a predominance of A's and E's, you can understand what key they're in. And then it also has chord detection, so it can actually show you chords as they're being played. So it's pretty nice. You need a pretty hefty phone to run it, and it's not on the App Store anymore. You have to find it in the Amazon app library. So. But
yeah, I was just going to say that. Like, I just went to open Pitch Lab and it said it's not available anymore. So you have to get it at Amazon?
Yeah, there's a Pitch Lab app in Amazon. If you're desperate, I can make a copy of the APK. But you can get it from Amazon.com. So there's lots of apps out there. Just pick the one that fits what you're using the best. Doesn't replace a separate handheld tuner though. I have one that clips to my bell. That's still the most accurate and least intrusive to actual playing. So most of the time I try to stay away from the app if I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll also throw another +1 on iReal, because iReal is kind of a simplified band in a box where you can just plug in chords and it'll make the backup band for you to practice with.
Robert, talking about when you're putting in the chord sequences to play along with, there is an app that is called Drone Tone Tool, and basically it's a single octave keyboard. But what it generates is a cello tone. So it's this constant droning cello tone. So you're not getting like a really irritating pitch tone, and you can play through all of your modes using that. And it's for, tablets, iPad, iPhone, whatever. And so you can just kind of reach over, hit another key on the piano, it'll change the tone, and then you can play over that too. So that's a really cool one. I think it was only $1. Used to be free, but you know, in these unprecedented times, everybody wants money.
So let me show you Audacity. I mean, you get to see that from me every time, but I meant the software. So this is what it looks like. I loaded up a song in it that we use for theory. And so it's just like, it's pretty much what you would expect. If you hit play, it'll play the song. So what you kind of see in here is just a visual representation of what's actually recorded. So I did this song for the theory class for tempo, to try to see if people could figure out the tempo or the time signature, really. And so if you let it go for a little bit, you try, and you're saying, well, you know, it's kind of neat, but I can't really figure out the time signature. So if that's going too fast, then you can just kind of select, let's see, it's been a while, select all, like that, and then under effects, you can kind of say, okay, well, it's going too fast, so let me just kind of change the speed or change the tempo. And so you can change it here by percentage change, so you can kind of put it at 50% if you want to, or you can also go back and change speed, you know, percentage wise. So let's just kind of say, let's say that I want to put it at 50. And that was way too fast, now wasn't it?
Minus 50.
Minus 50.
That's the trick. It's the plus and minus thing.
Changing pitch too.
All right, and so this one affects both the tempo and the pitch. So what you want to do is, instead of doing that, change the tempo only, and let's put it at minus 50.
Ask me how I know that.
You've done it a time or two?
Yeah, change the tempo and pitch of a backing track I was trying to learn a part against. It sounded like hell for a while until I figured out that I'd screwed up.
So it's too slow. So I want to preview it at 2. That's a little bit slower, but that's still too slow for me. So I'm going to put it at 10. Whoops, not at 210, but at 10. And then put OK. And then it'll process it for a little bit. Yeah, usually my machine's a little faster than that, but. So that's the intro. So let's just kind of. Here's the song. One, two, one, two, one, two, three, 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 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, right? So 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. What time signature then? And then you can say, okay, now that I got the time signature, let me figure out the bass. Or I want to write down that drum figure because I think it's kind of hip, you know. Or I want to just kind of see what she was singing and just kind of put that down. So that's what you would do when you're just kind of taking down the song. And that's where this type of software is really, really handy, because it gives you also a visual of what Word was saying, that if there's a place in here that might be silent and you just kind of want to cut that out. You see how it doesn't have all the little sound things and sound things. That's a technical term, by the way. So, And so if you select all of it, and if it looks like a real mess, but you can get really, really specific with stuff like this. So if you select all again, and one of the things that you can do is that you can kind of view it like that. So what that does is that now it takes that information and kind of stretches it this way. So you can kind of look at it under a microscope if you want to, and go and really select this area from here to here, or select this area from here to here, and then you can zoom into that area also, and make it bigger. So that's all it's doing, is just stretching it so you can manipulate it. That's all.
Yep, while you have it selected, hold down the shift key and press play.
Yeah.
And it'll just keep repeating it.
Right.
Tell it to stop. So if you're trying to learn a part, it'll just keep repeating it until you tell it to stop. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you can see the little loop thing here. You can see that little circle that just kind of keeps, and that's that mode that you're playing it in. So if you get stuck, then you just select that part, and then it kind of goes back to it. So it's pretty amazing. Actually, if I had had this in college, I wouldn't have skipped so much class. Yeah. But all of that, I mean, it helps. All of this stuff helps with ear training and theory, because what you do after you try to pull down a tune, like what Warren was saying, if your band wants to play a song and nobody has it, and your horns, just read music, they don't want to pull it, then you just kind of get to pull the song. And as you're doing that, you're learning not only about that musical style, but you're learning about the chord progressions that particular composer uses, and what goes to what and stuff like that. So you're gaining knowledge every single time. It's really a cool exercise.
They had computers when you were in college?
Oh, shut up.
Last question.
ENIAC.
Yeah, but they had they worked off of cards. You remember the little punch cards? Does anybody? Yeah. Hey, those things sent people to the moon.
I used paper tape on one job.
Did you?
Yeah, 1982.
Wow. My aunt made a killing at Y2K because she knew Pascal. Anyway, all right. So what else? Anybody else have anything else that we want to look at? I'm looking past the chat there.
On YouTube, I'm pretty sure there's probably people that play a piece and kind of put the piece up where you can see it and you can kind of play with them. Have people run into that sort of stuff? I know I have. Just wondering if anybody.
For trumpet players, there are tons of trumpet solo transcriptions out there, and they'll the funny thing, they'll have them playing alongside with the soloist, so you can kind of see. What they're doing with all of this. And by the way, I just finished doing this with the orchestra. Is a lot of orchestral scores are there in scrolling, so you can kind of see them and hear them at the same time. And you can do the same thing. You can kind of slow them down if they're going too fast and things like that. So it's really, really cool. One of the things that I did with the orchestra is that we had a preview side reading session on Zoom where I put up all the scores of the music that we were going to be playing, and let it play. People already had their music and stuff like that, and I thought that was really, really useful. I've told you guys in the board, I've told you guys that I want to do that with the band. It's really, really useful. You can kind of slow it down and just kind of say, okay, well, this is why I picked this song and all that kind of stuff, or this is what to focus on, and problem areas. So it's really cool. So I rewrote a program to download. Oh, wow. Well,
Windows work.
Yeah. The question mark is, does it work?
Yeah, it works great.
That's cool.
There's some
It needs a better UI. I don't know how to.
There's some websites that do that, but they seem to get taken down from time to time. And also there's some that will download things that are bad for you. So you got to kind of watch which ones are which. So
I stopped using those for exactly that reason.
Those are the ones that I download. That's Thomas's job, I think.
Yeah, there's tons of just like regular jamming backing tracks on YouTube too. I do that a ton. Also, videos that are actual metronomes, which is funny. One of the things I to be careful for if you're learning a song off of a YouTube video that's not a cover, a recording of a cover, it could not be in the right key. But usually covers are fine. But sometimes they'll be taken down because if they're the exact recording of a song or like a copy of a song, they'll just change the key a little tiny bit so it won't get taken down. So if you learn a song, you probably want to go off Spotify or something like that if you're just trying to learn something. But yeah.
Yeah, and then put it up on YouTube and they get sued. Oh.
They'll just get taken down, whatever.
or monetized. I think that's about all the patience we have for tonight.
Yeah. The one thing that's that Warwick, you're saying that we show you guys might be interested in this. You've heard me and Mike talk about this website, but I'll show you a couple of these, and we can actually post these. But the where to get some music is a really good idea sometimes. And so let me show you. Whoops, come on.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about MSlip. I looked at it for the first time in a while recently and noticed it's got options for searching by instrument, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So here, and not only that difficulty, you can search by composers.
Yeah, you've always been able to do that. And,
all of that kind of stuff by time period and stuff like that. So this is a really good website because all the music that they have is in public domain.
Yeah.
And they have some of it in Finale. So if you have Finale, you can download a whole Finale file from this. So some of the arrangements that I've done, I'll start with them here, and then I'll just kind of start taking them apart that way. So that's a good, really, really great website is this, and they've been around for forever. All they ask for is for donations, and it really is worth it donating to these guys. They do a really, really good job. For brass, there are several little websites. This one is for brass, choir, and printed music. That's to buy. And I found this little free one that's called excerptsuck.com. But it's actually, it has, all of this music is free.
I'm gonna have to check that one out.
And so that's actually pretty cool. Or excerpts suck. I'll copy that. I'll put it on the chat.
What was the name of the IMSLP website?
I'll put the link on the chat.
Oh, .org. Okay.
.org.
So really, and there are others like the Clarinet Institute is a really good one because they have a lot of free music. most of the music that we buy in band is from Pepper. So if you're just kind of gonna buy music, then I don't really like them, but they seem to have most band arrangements of the things that we play. So there it is. And that's it. That's really all I have in terms of little websites.
I just put in the chat for like my guitar and bass playing. I know this is for band, but I know folks play other instruments as well. I use Sheet Music Direct. They have a shit ton of just popular music. Like I pulled a lot of the Red Hot Chili Peppers tunes, and what the nice thing about that is it puts the tab and the actual notes on top of each other. So that's pretty cool. There's also drum parts. The downside is it's usually a few dollars, maybe 3 or 4 per part. But like I'm playing, you know, I'll learn a song on bass. I just pull the bass part to that song. I'll go over the music. I'll look at the tab to make sure I got my fingers in the right place. And then use the YouTube to slow it down, play it slow. And then eventually with the MP3 or whatever iTunes uses, then I'll be able to play full speed. So that's something else for non-band type of music. They might have actual other music too. I haven't looked for it. I just know that I use it for bass and guitar kind of stuff. There are vocal notes for, you know, like if you actually have a small ensemble trying to do popular music. But it's not, I mean, the parts, they're not that expensive. You could put a whole gig together for maybe $20 or $30. And once you buy it, it's yours. Like I could log on now and, you know, I've got all the music that I've purchased there. So that's nice. And you can organize them in a set list. So if you need it, like it's on my iPads, you can put that on your stand and just read through the music. The downside is sometimes when you put all of the music on one page of the iPad, you know, if you know anything about that genre of music, how it's written out, there's usually a lot of repeats and go back tos and that kind of stuff for the verses and chorus and bridge. It gets a little cumbersome trying to swipe while you're playing. But I just try to memorize what I'm playing, but you can do like set lists.
Thomas, you mentioned that there were PDFs, right?
Say again?
You mentioned that there were PDFs, right?
Yeah, you can print. I'm not sure of the format, but you can print them. It's more or less the same as a PDF.
If they are in PDF, you can use Fourscore, which is, I don't know, you guys have had Fourscore for a long time. Is Fourscore a free app or do you pay for it? Can you remember?
I think it was like $10.
Yeah, it's
not. Yeah.
It's iPad only, right?
Yeah, iPad only. But then there are others. But Fourscore is really, I mean, it's really fantastic. It does a really, really good job of managing your PDF music.
Well, and one of the things that's really cool about it is you can actually take a photograph of sheet music and upload that, and you can just look at it.
It scans it right away. I use it for the big band, and you know, it works really, really well when you have a library of, you know, 100 pieces or something like that. You know, it just keeps it nice and organized.
Well, I think we're about done with that. I was just going to plug that with a little bit of help from Kat, we've got a lot of cool people that are going to give us master classes coming up. I got the go ahead to actually start putting them on a schedule this week.
Nice.
So I'll probably try to look at the very first week of March. Might go sooner, but these folks also need a little bit of time, a couple of weeks to prepare something. Obviously, if they're going in later March, they got more than that, but I want to give them a fair amount of time to make sure the first person had enough time. So I was looking at March and April for scheduling these folks. There might be one or two at the end of February. We'll see. I got to actually start working on that now, but I am not familiar with the other names that Kat gave me. I'm going to get familiar with them. I can tell you about the folks. If you read on the Facebook page for ACWE, two of them I'm really excited about. All four of them are very knowledgeable in their areas. The two high school folks, I went to college with both of them. One is a percussionist, and he's going to talk about how he has approached concert band, being a percussionist on the podium, and some of the ways that he's managed his percussion section, as well as getting to know how to read other parts and that kind of stuff. And I think having the band hear a little bit from a different conductor, teacher, how they've gone about things will be helpful. The other band director, Jim Alder, he's also a high school band director at a fairly large size high school, Greenbrier East in West Virginia. He's a euphonium player. So he's going to talk a little bit about those things, as well as how he has navigated COVID and his music program. And I know that once we get through this, it might be a little bit of a moot point, but I think there's still going to be some good takeaways for the meantime. And if anything like this ever happened again, but also time where you might just be away from the band and still have want to be sort of participating the best way you can. The final two, Dr. Baruch Whitehead, he was the marching band director at Marshall University, but now he's the choral director at Ithaca College. And I think he's up to 4 degrees now. He is a wealth of knowledge. He's going to talk about some of the similar things, but he's still kind of putting together the specifics of what he's presenting. But we talked about a handful of things, and he's really excited about it. And the fourth person that I've got to commit is Stan Cornett. He was an officer of the Army bands for a couple of decades, and then he went on to become the director of training and doctrine for all of the Army bands. And this guy, he could talk for 12 hours and you would pull away about 15 hours of information. I mean, he is just a huge wealth of knowledge in a lot of subjects. One of my favorite classes I sat through of his is talking about the music that is specific to you, that you love to listen to, and how that correlates with the time that you listened to it, the age that you were, and what was popular on the radio, those kind of things that deal a little bit with the psychology of music. He's just he's got so much research at the tip of his tongue to spew out. So I think we can get a lot out of him too. So tell everyone, because the more people we have there, the better it is for the whole band. Or here, I should say here. It'll be on Zoom.
Awesome.
Yep, these are good people too. I'm surprised. I know.
Thank you very much. Really, you've done yeoman's work in this short amount of time to do all of that. And thanks, Kat, for all your suggestions. That really, really helps.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
That's where we are with that. We'll get them on the schedule in the next day or two, and hope to hear back from Kat's people over the next day or two and get those scheduled as well. And by the end of the week, kind of have that piece together and still have room for a couple more if we can find them.
Well, thanks again. And thanks, Caroline, for putting this together.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, thanks for all you people showing up.